Hello, everyone. My name is Jason Long, and today we're going to be talking to Mr. Jimmy Rose, the CEO at Content Snare, about niching down, finding focus, imposter syndrome when you're moving into new markets, and how to get past it. Let's dig in. Welcome, everyone, and thank you so much to Mr. Jimmy Rose for coming on today. We're going to be talking about niching down and the power of opening your markets by closing some doors. So, first off, thank you so much, Jimmy. And why don't you start off by introducing yourself?
Yeah, hey everyone. I'm Jimmy from Content Snare. I like to confuse people by also going by James. But yeah, so I've had a long journey in the sort of internet marketing and software space, been in since about 2009. We built Content Snare in 2016, released in 2017 as a way to get information from clients. And that's been one hell of a journey. I think that's what we're going to be talking about today. So yeah, that's just a SaaS guy.
Perfect. And so tell me about it. You said getting content. Tell me what the system does.
Well, funnily enough, this is going to come into the story because the name's Content Snare because it was originally built for getting website content from clients, and that is not our core anymore, as you'll learn shortly. But yeah, so the original build was for web designers because we had a web design agency, and it was really painful to get website content from clients. So you have this back and forth. It's just such an awful process. You like got these messy Google documents. You try to use forms, like hundreds of emails. No, I can't use that. No, your logo is 14 pixels high. We need something bigger. Like it was just this back and forth trying to get what you need to build someone's website. Um, that's what the original build was for. Now it's more about just getting anything you need from clients. So, as we're going to talk about this, but like we work with lots of different industries, but our core now is accounting. So accountants would use Content Snare for client onboarding. They need like documentation, like their company information, bank statements, whatever. They need like they need to know about the company, who the directors are, whatever, when they're bringing on a new client. So it's eliminates just a ton of back and forth admin work when collecting the information you need from clients.
Excellent, excellent. You know, it's interesting. I talk to people about this a lot, and I hear from people a lot. If you're going to build something, don't build it for web developers. Don't build it for web designers. Build it for an industry that is established,
Yes.
that has standard processes, that has known problems, and is also not on the cutting edge of things. That doesn't have a ingenuitive or doesn't have some ingenuity in the way to go about doing things. And it sounds like you found that place in accounting. Can you tell me about the process of going from web developers or web dev shops to everybody else and focusing on accountants?
Yeah, okay. So God, as you saw, I laughed there where you when you said don't focus on web designers, and we learned that the hard way. And it's not like really the core reason is just there's a lot of freelancers and a lot of they're very price sensitive is what it comes down to. And a lot of, um here's a really good example is like a lot of sole web designers that I've met would be struggling to do 50K a year, right? But a lot of sole bookkeepers or accountants are well over 100K. Like that, it's very reasonable to expect a sole operator to be doing over 100K. So like they've just naturally got more budget for things. And yeah, like so that was the thing we found out later with web design is like even if you have a product that's amazing, like it's very hard to get someone to, fork out cash for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but so the process went, I mean, so my game has always been in SEO. So while we built the product for web designers originally, we wrote a lot of content and got it ranking for web design related keywords. So, if a web designer wanted to know how to get website content from clients, they Google that, we showed up sort of thing. Um, in that process, we also started ranking for other more generic terms, like how do I get information from clients? I don't know that's I don't. It's weird. There's like probably 100 long tail terms, but that's the gist of it, right? Like how do I get stuff that I need from clients? Variations of that keyword. um, and in that process, we naturally started collecting other industries. So there was a point in time, and I'm going to say it's around 2020. So we've been around for 3 to 4 years, I think maybe 2021, where we had this list. Like web designers, marketing agencies, so by natural extension, marketing agencies on web designers, they made up probably like 80% of our audience, and we had this like 20% of just everything else. Lawyers, mortgage brokers, education, like Emirates were a customer at one point. Like they used it like for an internal project, like insane. We had really big clients, really small clients, just because they found us through Google, essentially. Um, but we hit a plateau for a very long time, and it was just like it felt like we are just bashing our head against the wall. We were doing everything, man. Like, good God, like it was not a happy time of my life. It just felt like everything we didn't really add any more value. Like we did the whole content thing. We had a podcast for agencies, a newsletter for agencies, Facebook group for agencies, like blogs for agencies, ranked for all these keywords. And despite like being known in the industry and having traffic, and it was just like the business was not growing at a very high rate. So we actually thought, I think it's time for another industry. And that process took quite a while. It was, God, I think we wrote off accountants several times before we actually like landed on them, because it was just speaking to people, right? So I would speak to my accounting friends in accounting. So from long time ago, I had like a decent networking circle of all kinds of businesses. So I was just literally reaching back out to people. Feel free to interrupt with any questions at any time, man. Like,
The only thing I was gonna say is that I remember this time because I remember talking to you in Bangkok, and you were just like, I don't know, man. I don't know. Like maybe I'm just gonna go back to the agency. Maybe I'm gonna go back and do something different. Like this is really frustrating. We're still at the same spot,
hmm.
but you broke out of it.
Yeah, so like I was saying, we were just looking at all these different industries and going like, which one is the right one? Because none of them really stood out. They were all kind of like 1 or 2% of our market, and like we would have really good feedback from some in every industry. Like I remember this immigration lawyer, because for a while there I was like, this is it. Like immigration lawyers need so much documentation. My God, this is perfect. This is our niche. And then like this person who was like talking so positive about us left, and we were like, but what if it was that good? Like obviously. So and I spoke to my accounting friends, and some people have varying different processes, right? And I just happened to speak to like 3 accountants who had processes that didn't need what we did. And so I went, accountants don't need what we did. And I'm like, my accountant doesn't chase me for information like ever. And it turns out it's because I'm like their best client at giving them information when they need it. And our bookkeeper said the exact same thing. So I was like, damn it. Like I wrote it off because of that, right? I was like, no, but they're never chasing me for stuff. Um,
You should talk to my bookkeeper and my accountant because they chase me for stuff all the time. Yep.
well, there you go. But you know what? Like, even we did so many like spreadsheets of like, how well do we think we can target this industry? How many of them are there? Like, how much of a perfect fit are we for them? We just like try to do all these like scoring metrics, and like it was always like pretty even. And accounting was usually towards the top, but never the top. But completely luck on how we ended up in accounting. So we through one of those SEO type acquisitions of a customer, someone reached out and were like, "We love your product so much. It's just been the best for us." And I was like, "Oh, do you want to do a case study or something? Because you're talking about this really positively." And so we got on a call with them and did a video case study. And literally the next week, someone that had seen their process, another accountant, had gone, my God, we saw what they were doing and now we're doing it. And we love this and blah, 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 blah. It saved us. I've eliminated like a full-time job with 4 hours in Content Snare. Like it took me 4 hours to eliminate a whole full-time job. And I was like, holy crap. Do you want to do a video case study? Also, so that was our first 2 accounting case studies. And this has been a 2 week period. And then at the end of the second week, someone from a accounting document management system reached out to us and said they were interested in acquiring us because I quote, the industry needs what you do. And so it was like these 3 things that happened really quickly, like a stars aligning moment. We were like, accounting then. So like there's no genius in this. I mean, we were trying to evaluate things like smart ways and spreadsheets and scoring, but in the end it was just like, okay, there's clearly something here because of these events that happen.
But you didn't have the sales to back it up yet, did you? Like you just had the idea, and you had somebody had told you we need this. What were the sales still at 2, 3, 4, 10%? Like what were they at there for accounting?
Yeah, like it might have been creeping up, but it was still low single digits. I think everything was pretty much low single digits at that point. But like I said, they were still pretty high on our other lists as well. It's like because the thing with accounting is that our product was could handle most of the things that they needed already, right? There are a few extra like, non-deal breaker type things, but a lot of other industries, for example, mortgage and insurance need digital signing, which we didn't have. That had to be done externally. Accountants generally don't need that. They already have tools that they used for their engagement letters and proposals. So like we didn't, so it was like this perfect fit. We're like, we don't need to adapt the product much. And it really just became a matter of going out and networking in among that industry again and getting our name out and talking to people.
T-
So
tell me, tell me a little bit
yeah.
about that. Like when you talk about the networking, were you going to networking events? Were you going to conferences? Were you sending emails? Like what did that look like?
So yeah, okay. So I was going to say I didn't really send emails, but I did. Funnily enough, I played a similar playbook to what I did in the agency space, but without the podcast. So just to back up, the podcast was amazing because it allowed me to connect with influencers in the agency space because you can lead with value. You're like, I'm going to put you in front of
Yeah.
my audience. And I could do the agency podcast because I ran an agency and I knew like the terms and stuff. I still feel like an imposter in accounting, so I
Mhm.
don't want to like have this podcast where I'm like, let's teach you how to run an accounting firm. Like, bro, you've never run an accounting firm. So instead, but I use the same playbook of just like reaching out to influencers in the space and being like, hey, like I've been told that this problem is like it's really painful to get information from clients, and like we've got this thing. It was very much like I don't know what the word is, like I'm looking for feedback type email. We've got this product and it's big in web design, but we've been told this would be really helpful for accountants. Like, do you want to give me, I can't remember what the wording was, but it's like, it wasn't like, do you want to give me some feedback? But it's essentially that, right? And I reached out to people on Twitter and through email, and I actually got to know a few more influential people that way. So that was like the cold side of things. Otherwise, yeah, man, I got straight back into like literal in-person networking events in my city, Brisbane, Australia.
Okay.
Like yeah, that was really strange to me because I look back at that part of my life when I went to lots of networking events as like as a sad time of my life where I was like trying to like grow this agency by like networking and selling like websites that were too cheap. And so to go back into these things, I was like, oh yuck. But at the same time, I had so many previous connections that I already knew. So even though they were accounting only events that I would show up to, um, I still knew like 5 or 6 people in the room. And I actually got introduced really quickly to other products that we aligned really well with. So that was kind of the next stage of it all was, yeah, getting to know the sort of influencers and partners, which would sometimes talk about you or whatever. But um, it is a very slow industry, accounting. Everyone's sorry, slow to build a market in because it's very relationship based. Someone might hear about, I guess this is everywhere, but like, they might hear about you 15 or 20 times before they sign up. But I have a demo later today with a very, very, very large accounting firm who I first spoke to at a conference in September 2023. So it's nearly a year, and they've reached out, replied to a LinkedIn message that I sent straight after that conference and said, yeah, I'm sorry. They made a joke about how long it took them to reply, and they're like, do you want to let's do this demo? Like it's all these things just because they would have heard about us again through some random grapevine, like maybe like a WhatsApp group. Like accountants hang out in WhatsApp groups sometimes just to share information. It's like who knows where they heard about us again. So it's this really slow burn where it was just like in-person events, getting to know influencers. Conferences did come later as an attendee first. Before we could actually afford to go to, accounting conferences, as you can probably imagine, are not cheap to get a
Yep.
stall at. Yeah, and so it was just lots and lots of that. LinkedIn and just, now I know
Yep.
a lot
When you say
of the people in the industry.
when you say lots and lots, like how many trade shows per year were you going to?
Oh, sorry. So not sorry. All up, it's lots and lots. So there's trade shows, not that many because there's not that many in Australia.
Yeah.
Now that we've got a kid, it's a lot harder to go to the international ones.
Don't
Otherwise, I'd
don't you
be
have two
doing
kids?
well now. Yeah. So I'm going back. I'm going back. Like
Okay.
during this period of my life. Now we have two kids, so it's even harder again. Still going to Bangkok though. I'll see you there in a couple of months,
No, I,
hopefully.
I actually won't be going because we have a
Oh,
we have a baby due in September, and so I
oh, of
can't I
course.
can't make it by October.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
I will be
Uh,
very sad to miss it.
yeah, yeah, it's a bummer. But yeah, so Zero run a whole bunch of stuff in Australia because this is kind of like, very, very zero-centric country, Australia. So there's ZeroCon, which I went to and as attendee. That's only once a year, and then we exhibited last year. They do a road show, which is like 13 or 14 small events around all the different cities. And this year we're doing, I think, 10 of those. But that's abnormal. Like last year, I
And
think we only did like 3 conferences in the year, maybe 4.
just so for
Um,
anybody that's watching this, Zero is an accounting system for small businesses.
yeah, correct. It's like if you're in the US, it's probably QuickBooks is the dominant player there.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, I mean, these conferences exist for most industries, right? And it the hardest thing is like justifying the cost because some of them are very, very expensive. But I'll tell you why we paid the fee for ZeroCon is because I went as an attendee the first year and just walked around. And like, because I had new people in the industry by this point, so it was kind of just a catch up with people in real life kind of deal. I've spoken to these people on Zoom and over the internet. It's like, yeah, I'm just going to go and meet everyone for real because that there's something about meeting people for real that just takes the relationship to another level, right? But
Absolutely.
I spoke to a lot of attendees and like, why are you here? Like, why do you come to this thing? Like, because it is crazy. ZeroCon is like a massive party. They've got like booths where you're like going, I don't know, they had like a soccer field set up in the middle of this conference, and like it just like and you could go and get a haircut in this like barber that was in the middle of the conference. Like it's just crazy. It's like that kind of conference. And I was like, why do you all come here like from all around Australia? And so many people said, quote, to come and meet the tech vendors. And I was like, what? I was like,
Interesting.
what?
Yeah.
Like, why would you come to a conference literally to meet the sponsors, right? Like, but that's like a thing that happens here. Because I think it's because Zero is so tech forward. They've really encouraged this like tech thinking especially in Australia. And so everyone's always looking for new tech and ways to like value add to their clients or like, make their business run better. So yeah, so the next year was a no-brainer. We forked out for the booth. And it was a killer. Like we would run off our feet for the entire 2 days. Like we could not keep up with how many people wanted to come talk to us. It was crazy.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
that's fantastic. I've done so many trade shows and I've never had a trade show like that. It's oh man, it's that I wish we could have a trade show like that or could have had a trade show like that.
Yeah. I
So
mean, it helps solving a problem that's actually really painful and having the words on the back that make people stop and go, wait, how do you solve that? Like that was kind of what was happening.
gotcha. Gotcha.
Yeah.
And how many sales do you think you picked up at that one show?
Oh God. I honestly have no clue. Again, it comes back to this like the attribution is just I feel like attribution
Yeah.
is
It's hard
BS
for
at this point.
everybody.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well,
it's
give me
like
a round number. Give me like some, just something people can hold on to.
I literally have no idea. Maybe 30. I don't know. Like it's not a huge number. Like directly out of it is probably like 15. Like I could see based on the coupon people used that lasted like 3 days or something, right? So it wasn't huge, but like this is the thing is I've spoken to so many people since then that like I saw you at ZeroCon. Like, tons of them. And they're only the ones I speak to. We're a full self-service product. Like people can go to the website and sign up for a trial and pay us without talking to us at all. So I straight up like I would guess, that that in has indirectly added a couple of hundred customers. Like that's just a total guess, right?
And
Um,
what's your LTV per customer?
in the accounting space, this is the
Yep.
the niching thing, right? Like it's probably 50% higher than web designers, and I think it's like two and a half last time I checked. We're
Okay.
too cheap. I'll tell you that. We're too cheap, especially for the accounting space.
So for any accountants that are watching right now, go ahead and buy it now before they raise their prices.
Yeah, we're definitely in
Yeah.
talks about how we're going to do the new pricing model and how much it will be for sure.
Excellent. Okay. So I mean, that sounds like it was just an easy fit. If everybody was coming to you for that solution, and I'm sure if you had gone to a web dev conference, that would not have been the case.
It's a good question. But again, the problem we solved in web dev was still incredibly painful. So I think you'd probably get spoken to as a lot, but not they probably just wouldn't sign up, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, or maybe they're just not as hungry for tech as accountants are. Like that could be a big part of how busy we were, is just accountants are hungry for tech, especially in our market. So I don't know. The thing is, I actually don't know many web dev conferences. They're like
I
I
don't either.
I, I looked around for them, and like there were some, but they were always like tacked onto something else. It'd be like a marketing conference that those kind
Yeah.
of marketing agencies would go to, but so would marketing departments. It's like going to a HubSpot conference, right? I went to Inbound in Boston a few years back and before COVID, and it was like I don't know who was there. Everyone was there just to have a party. Like I thought it was going to be a lot of marketing agencies, but everyone I met was just like some random that was like that definitely was not a potential customer of ours. And I was like, we ended up just being like drinking for 5 days and having fun.
It could be worse.
Yeah,
Yeah.
correct.
All
But I will
right.
tell you, sorry, actually, right before that conference, I spoke at a small web designer conference. Like it was only 100 people or something. And I don't think we got anything out of that at all. Like I
Yeah.
spoke there and exhibited there, and we got like nothing.
Yeah. So
Mm.
so do you have other niches that you're additionally looking at? You've got the accountants, but like are you niching down just to that, or are you seeing growth in other places like legal?
So I mean, we do grow in all these other places, but it's just not a focus. Um,
Gotcha.
like, and when I say focus, I mean a big part of it is really just marketing and literally my time. We've just hired a full-time person here in Australia who is the only other person that will be focusing on the accounting market. Because everything that the product itself, everything we build, and everything that's on the roadmap, at least for the next year, let's say, is pretty general stuff that will work for most industries. And so we're lucky in that regard that the main stuff that accountants want that's different to everyone else is integrations with accounting apps. So we are building those. That is the only sort of real focus area. Um, but of course, like we're naturally weighting features that accountants want higher now because we're just getting a lot of feedback from accountants because they're our highest percentage of customers now, right? So we're sort of naturally leaning into that.
So you told me before what originally what your percentage was. What's the percentage of accountants now?
It's like 32. Oh, sorry, yeah, it's about a third.
Okay. All right. And it's
Yeah, and
growing, I assume, at a
yes.
reasonable rate?
Yeah, correct. So we still get a lot of customers through SEO, right? So completely self-serve. They might ask some support questions. We never talk to them. So I don't really, it feels like all I speak to are accountants. But then I look at the
Gotcha.
numbers and it's like, well, all these people are coming in through other channels that, are kind of just happening at this point.
What
So
what
yeah.
percentage of your revenue is the accountants though? Because you talked about how the web dev agencies don't have as much money. Is
Hmm.
it more like 50% of revenue coming from accountants?
No, sorry. So that 33% is revenue. That's share of revenue.
Okay.
So we use profit well
Gotcha.
for metrics, and that is literally looking at the share of revenue metric. Yeah. So it's so funny seeing this kind of thing because web designers churn more often as well. And this month we're sitting at like negative 0.5% logo churn, but
Wow.
positive 3% growth, like revenue, because we've obviously lost a bunch of web designers or lower ticket clients and grabbed and got all these like higher paying accounting and professional clients which have even yeah, so our revenue's grown, but our number of customers has declined, which is just, I don't know, it just feels really weird.
So, do you think you're going to continue pushing hard? Like, I guess, what are you going to do next to push into the accounting markets? Are you just going to do the same old, or do you have additional things that you're going to be doing?
So the big thing for us is, so I think this is a limiting belief of mine because I hate sales. Like I hate cold email. I like love marking that shit as spam. Um, I I can't handle calling people because I really don't like being called. Um, but this is the thing is like I think it's so normalized here that everyone is doing well from calling. Like, and often accountants actually do want to talk to someone and sometimes appreciate it, but I just can't get that through my tiny little brain, and I need someone else to do this stuff, right? Like, so that is the thing. I think it's sales, a little bit of outbounds, yeah, and actually just talking to like, so for example, webinars are really big in the accounting space still, for some reason. Like no one comes to webinars in web design and marketing. Everyone's so sick of them, but we get really massive, well, and I know other tech in the space gets huge turnouts to their webinars. So, but what other products will do is go and call everyone who came to the webinar, right? Like, and I just can't handle doing that. So that's kind of the next thing is I need to plug someone else in to do those things. So I think it's like, yeah, sales and a little bit of outbound is what I would like to do more of. But like I said, massive road like mental block for me, so I need someone else to do that.
Yeah. I mean, that sounds like so many founders that I know that they really start to scale once they hire a sales team and they build a sales organization within their business. So it sounds like maybe you're right on the cusp of some really big growth if that's what you're about to do next.
Hope so. I mean, the other thing is like we can afford it now too, right? Like this is the thing is now that we're growing again, we can afford to hire like, team members that can do that because sales is generally a more expensive role, right? Hiring
Yeah.
Aussies instead of like offshore is more expensive. So it's actually just nice to be able to afford that's been the biggest change, honestly, since like the growth from accounting is like, oh, now we can like it feels like run a real business.
Yep. I completely understand. Yep. So tell me about what's your head count now?
Oh God. It's about 12. Like they're all contractors though, right? Because they're pretty much all offshore somewhere except we've got me, my business partner, and Fiorella, who's just started. They are employees because they're the Aussies. Um, yeah, I think it's around 12.
Okay. Sounds good. And then it sounds like unlike some of the other people I've spoken to that actually just close doors to other places, really your doors are still open to everybody,
Mhm.
but your focus is what's changed. Instead of focusing on this, over on web design, you just said we're focusing over on accounting, putting all the marketing, all the sales into it, understanding that market better than any other market and going in there. And I noticed you did say you're not an accountant, you've never run an accounting firm, but would you say that you understand the content acquisition piece of accounting better than most accountants?
What do you mean by content acquisition? Oh, as in like getting
Yeah.
information. Yes, definitely. Probably gonna ruffle some feathers here, but I feel like in accounting, and this is probably everyone, to be honest, it's like some of the client portals I've seen out there, because that's kind of a competing thing to us. Like someone might be using a client portal, and like we just use that. We don't need content now. But like the thing that really gets me is like you look at these systems and you're like, no wonder they're not working for you because the user interface and the client experience is just awful. Like I think a lot of people will see the marketing website of that portal and go, "Oh yeah, look, it lets me get information from clients. Cool, tick, done." But it's like, no, the client experience sucks. They're not going to use it, right? And so that's I think been the big thing is, we try to do a lot of education on like how to actually use content set to create a good client experience because it doesn't just do it by magic. They have to put some effort into it. And like, so on that side of things, 100% because we've seen what works and what doesn't work or whatever. And trying to communicate that to people is probably one of the bigger challenges because if someone leaves because they're like, oh, our client didn't like it, and it's like you look at the question list that they sent them and you're like, God, I don't even know what you're talking about. Like, of course your client didn't use this.
So within your system, do you have templates built for accountants? So accountant
Yeah.
can just come in, click, I'm an accountant, I do this particular kind of thing, and boom, here's all the stuff that they need.
Yeah. Yeah. And see, this is like you're talking about. We haven't like shut down all the other doors, but again, so because we've got templates for everyone, but accounting is like by far the most templates we have, you know? Um, and we're constantly adding. We add some to the other zones as well, but the other industries, sorry. But yeah, we've got tons for accountants at this point. Trying to add them all the time and keep up with new changes in the space.
Do you foresee a time where you will close the door to others?
I'm glad you asked because I was going to say that before. Like, we're sort of talking about that now. I don't think we'd close it, right? Like, because really it would be about like changing the marketing website. So just, you come to contentsnare.com, it just talks about document collection for accounts or whatever, like whatever the phrase that we use is. This is the other problem is like there's 100 different ways people describe what we do. Um, yeah, client, like I said, client portal is one before, and like getting information or whatever. Um, so yeah, like I don't know, like there's nothing stopping anyone signing up for a product, right? Like that's a self-serve product. We're not going to go, oh, you're not an accountant, so go away. It's just more like, do we make the website 100% focused on accountants, that to me is kind of closing doors, because if you get like a lawyer that shows up there and they're like, oh, this isn't what I thought it was, right? Um, it might happen. We're sort of in the process of addressing this now. Like, if we to go forward into the accounting industry, what features are we going to add? That we're doing customer interviews essentially and being like, how can we add more value to you? And a lot of it, again, other than integrations, is still pretty generic. Like it would work for most most industries. So I'm still like, oh, no. But like, again, this could be a limiting belief. Maybe we change the homepage to all accounting and suddenly, bam, we grow faster. Like, I don't know. That's a really hard call.
What would it take for you to say I'm all in on accountants? Like what would be the thing or things that would happen where you would say 100% this is where I'm going?
I think it would be less reliance on um like the SEO side of things. Like that's the thing right now, is because we still get quite a lot of our growth from people just finding us online. And so I think I don't know, accounting would probably have to hit a certain threshold where it's like, yeah, I don't know. I really don't know the answer to this. Like, because now I think now that I said it out loud, it's like, well, no, because we're still going to keep all the current customers. So maybe it's not a bad thing. If you turn off that tap of new customers coming in, you still have all the lawyers and web designers, whatever, keep using our product. Um, and over time, it just becomes accounting. So like, I really don't know, man. It's
Or
well, I
perhaps
the thing that's
come
stick,
in,
yeah,
narrow it, and just go down to like professional services.
yeah, absolutely. That is sort of something I'm thinking about. The thing that now that you've asked this question, I think I'd like to see. I'd like to have more penetration in the US. So we have a lot of US clients, but there's a lot of competition there that do like there's products that do like a piece of what we do, or do what we do as a bolt on to a bigger project management system. And I feel like those are kind of where people gravitate to for some reason. Like, even though we've got plenty of customers, it's like US is the biggest market in the world, right? And so while people are still naturally finding us, that scares me, turning that off if we're not the obvious player in the accounting space there. Um, Even though for some people we are, but a lot of like, because I'm seeing new products come out constantly, so I'm a little bit worried about that. Whereas like, I feel like, that said, maybe we don't matter, it doesn't matter, and you can get enough clients from Australia and UK, which are like the most zero-centric countries. Or New Zealand, obviously, as well. It's just the population's not really there. So, maybe we can support a big enough business just there. And I don't like, if I saw some numbers that prove that to me, perhaps that's it. That's what would cause me to go, you know what, we're just going to zero accounting firms, even, right? Like,
Yep.
I don't know. It's a very hard question. I like it.
Yeah, I'll be interested to do this talk again in another 2 3 years and see where that is. But it does also bring up a lot of questions. You pointed out that there are a lot of bolt-ons. There are a lot of other things that connect to some of these ERP
Mm.
systems or other platform level systems. Have you thought about selling the business? Have you, I mean, I'm sure at the size you're at now, people are starting to come to you more often looking for a purchase. And so, what would it take to get you to sell?
Mhm. I mean, the easy answer to that is like FU money.
Okay.
That's like right off into the sunset money. Like I've thought about this a lot, right? And it's like, if I sold the business, it would have to be for a number that I didn't need to continue to work, right? Because otherwise I've got to go and start another business, and starting from scratch is way harder than growing this current business.
Yeah.
So it's like, why would I sell it unless I don't have to do it anymore? That's kind of my thinking on that currently. Yeah.
That's the same thinking of so many entrepreneurs I speak to,
Yeah.
and
Good.
myself as well. Like
Yeah.
I have multiple businesses now, and when I think about selling one, I'm like, yeah, but the cash, we have the cash every
Yeah.
month. Like if we sell it, then we just have to worry about what to do with all that money.
Mm.
And and it does also kind of lend to or lead into what I see a lot of tech entrepreneurs becoming, which is investors.
Yeah, 100%. I think I'd be happy to do that. Everyone always says like if you didn't have to work, you'd be so bored. I'm like, dude, like I don't have enough time for the
Yeah.
hobbies that I selectively chose because that I had to throw away a bunch of hobbies because I don't have time. Like, and I don't even have enough time for the ones that I kept. So the amount of stuff that I want to do, good God, like I would not be bored. But I think you'd naturally end up creating something else. I think once you like
Yeah.
people like
Th-
us have always got our ear to the ground for new ideas and things to build.
I had an exit last year, and I took 6 months off, and then instead of going and becoming an investor the way that Kristen wanted me to, I just started another business.
Of course you did.
Yeah.
Of course you did. How many businesses you got now, Jason?
I don't want to talk about it. I'm closing stuff. I'm not opening anything. I'm
Yeah,
actually in
good.
the process of focusing myself by closing some of my businesses that don't really make very much money, or selling them, or just exiting them in one way or another, so that I can just focus on one thing. Because that was really something that I learned in this last part of my life doing that private equity turnaround. It was that when I just did one thing and I was fully devoted to that one thing, I could really make it go.
Man,
and and
it's
I've been
huge.
fragmented for a long time.
Yeah, dude. And like I remember speaking to you a long time ago when you did have so many things going on, and so did we, right? Like my bookkeeper wrote a blog post about us a while ago about like how many businesses we were running, and it was just I remember looking at the list and being like, ugh, like I really shouldn't be doing that, you know?
Yeah.
And it's very hard to let go, but like honestly, I mean, the biggest thing is having a source of revenue. This is the thing people don't really talk about with this. It's like, yeah, just focus on one thing. That's hard if there's not one obvious thing that's like growing at a rate that excites you. Like that's the thing. It's got to be growing. Like growth is exciting. And that, well, when Content Snare was in that like plateau period, like you said, I was talking to you about like going back to the agency life and whatever because I just didn't know how to make this work. But now that we're back to growing, it's exciting, and it's like we're growing at a level that we can afford to pay ourselves properly, and that we can hire new people and grow. Like that's exciting, and it's very easy then to focus, right? It's like it's this chicken egg thing, right? Like it's you need the money to be able to focus on one thing, but focusing might help you get that money. Like it's a chicken and egg problem, and it's really hard to know what that when you're not confident that it's the right thing. Like when we were having that plateau period, I was not confident that content scene was the thing that was going to make us you know put us in this position. So I don't know, that's such a I feel like no one really talks about that. They're just like focus, and that's kind of the advice with none of the stuff behind it.
It's interesting because I have exactly the same problem. Like, what do you focus on? But when you do focus on one thing, you find the solutions. You
Mm,
figure out how to make it work. You pivot it if it has to pivot, and you make the changes, or you get to the end and you realize like it's not going to work, close it and go do something that will. So at least that's mostly been my experience after having had a very, very fragmented past. So let me ask you, like, when you started really focusing on this, did you overcome the problems? Did you find the solutions once you were all in on it?
Yeah, we did, but I also feel like we were getting to a point when I was really comfortable focusing on it, it was more clear. It was once we started growing again, right? So I had that excitement. Um, I think without that, it would have been a struggle.
What
Um,
started you growing again? What was that thing that
well, it's mostly the
kicked it off?
accounting that like
Okay.
the switch to accounting. That like that's the main
Yeah.
thing.
Gotcha.
Yeah, the
So
niching.
the focus is what enabled you to focus, but the
Yeah,
focus
yeah, true.
happened
Hey.
kind of randomly.
Yes, true. So yeah, in this case, focus is niching is a kind of focus. So yes, 100%.
Yeah. So that's I think that itself is worth or is the thing that I want people to get from this is that once you have the focus and you have the niche, then you can focus enables focus.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. All right, let's see what else. How are you feeling about the future of the business? You know you talked about you've got to be more in the US markets. What are you doing now to get there? And do you think you're going to be where you want to be? And do you have a set goal for that?
Right. So, right now, actually, we are more focused on Australia. So we've gone through this sort of strategy, go-to-market plan over the last sort of month. I wouldn't say it's completely finalized yet, but I do feel like the outcome of that for now is double down on Australia. And obviously, like I said, we're still getting customers from other channels from the US and everything, simply because we have such momentum here.
Gotcha.
And it seems silly to let that slip. Like we're starting, the amount of people I hear that are like, "Oh, I've heard about you so many times," or like, "I heard about you from insert some massive accounting software who's been talking about you." Like we're in the Facebook groups for accountants now, like someone will mention like client onboarding or getting information, and it's just like content snare, content snare, content snare, content snare, all the replies, like they say things like, "Hey, yeah, give us a call if you want me to run you through how we've got our content snare set up." And like they're helping each other with
Nice.
content snare. Like I haven't seen this before ever. So like it's so super cool. And like we've got some amazing customers who are always the ones making those offers. Shout out Jack Dixon. And like there's just I don't know, man. Like it feels like we've got this crazy momentum here that'd be silly to sort of dilute right now. Again, focus.
Yep.
Um, yeah, like if we go to the US, I think my plan would I'd need to be at events. That's the thing, and that's really hard right now because
Yeah.
of kids. So until they're a little bit older and or like maybe we can afford to live in nanny, in Australia,
Or
Australian
you
nanny
could hire
prices.
a salesperson in the US to go for you.
Yes, so this is something else. Yeah, like that's a difficult hire, obviously, but that is we were actually looking at that in the UK again because of the zero centric. We have some integrations with apps that are also doing their UK push right now. So part of it's like, do we sort of align with them and kind of if we're in the same circles and we integrate with them and they promote us and we promote them, that kind of might make sense to go into the UK because none of these apps have penetration in the US
Gotcha.
because it's so QuickBooks focused and this is all zero focused. Um, yeah, I don't know. It's like I think like there's some stuff we're doing in the US is like influencer marketing, I guess, like a very very like lightweight stuff. Like only one like Jason Stats is an awesome US influencer in accounting. Probably I'd say like the best influencer in accounting. Like he makes actually entertain like he makes accounting videos that are super funny and entertaining. Like how that's just such a win. I don't know many people who are able to do that. But yeah, so we sort of work with him a little bit. And so there's like these little communities of people that we're sort of starting to get involved with, like partnerships. Again, it's the same playbook, man. Just without all the physical networking. Um, I think long term, the smart play would be more like the whole podcast route again and newsletter, but I still feel like an imposter. So I think I need to hire an accountant to do all that stuff for me.
There's I can't remember their names. I can send you their information. There's some friends that they or some acquaintances that did a Facebook page for insurance brokers, and they didn't know anything about insurance, and they became influencers in insurance without ever having sold insurance in their entire life. So it's totally doable. And they said for the
Yeah.
first 2 years they felt like imposters.
Wow. I think I know who you're talking about. It's
Yeah,
David and L,
Denning,
right? Yeah.
but like
Denning, yeah.
L Denning, that was
It's
it,
L
and
and
her
David, yeah.
husband, yeah, David,
David.
that was it. Yeah,
Yeah, they are, God, two of the nicest human beings.
yeah, absolutely. So, all right, so before we wrap up today, I'm curious if you were going to give SaaS entrepreneurs or any entrepreneurs advice about niching down and about focusing on a particular target market or just focusing in their business, what advice would you give them?
Oh, it's same advice as many things in this space is talk to people. Like, talk to your customers. Go and find the people who, well, if you don't have any customers yet, you got to go and, like in that industry, you've got to go and talk to them and find out what their problems are. Um, what they're looking for, like what they're passionate, like when someone talks about how painful it is to get information from people, it's like, whoa, okay, yeah, like that's a real problem. Um, then if you have a few of those customers, go and talk to them. Like I'm going to sound like a broken record here, but honestly, like it's just talking and talking and talking and getting on calls and getting them to show you through what they're using and ways they use things and asking questions and like, not proposing solutions, just letting them talk about stuff and like probing into what their problems are. Like that is continually the best source of like everything in our business, like feature ideas and um, marketing ideas and partnerships. Like it all comes from that. It's really just, and it's much easier. Like, I said before, I don't like cold outreach and sales and stuff, but like I think it's different when you're like, I don't know, you can get warm intros, makes it a lot easier, but also if you're just going with like I just need some feedback kind of angle, you can talk to people who, it's crazy to me how many people like the kind of people that replied to me were just happy to chat, who were like well-known people with like tight schedules. It was just blew my mind. So yeah, you can
So,
you can talk to,
how
sorry.
many accountants do you talk to per month right now?
If you like on calls, it's mostly demos for me at this point, right? So I've actually had to outsource. So we've got an agency helping us with the go-to-market strategy that just did like I think 10 or maybe 8 customer calls in the last sort of 2 or 3 weeks, like digging in. So between like case studies, because that's also getting feedback. I use case studies to get feedback on the product as well. Like every time I'm on the phone with someone, I'm like collecting, like learning, right? So between case studies and calls, like it'd be maybe like, I don't know, 10 to 20. If you count demos, 20, a month. But those are very good learning experiences as well. Um, like I think long term, what I would like to do is have someone else do the demos and essentially me just talk to customers, right? Like here and there, because that's how you work out the product direction. That's where you get your marketing ideas. That's where you get your messaging. That's where you get everything. Messaging is actually the big one. You hear the words they use to describe their problems and what they're trying to do to fix it, and that's what you put on your website.
Perfect. That was incredibly helpful. That
Oh,
was
good.
that was a great interview. Thank you so much, Jimmy. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Jason, man. It was really good to chat to you.
Yeah, it was good to see you as well.
Yeah, 100%, man. It's always too long between when we catch up.